You know, whether we realize it or not, leadership touches every area of our life. Whether we're leading in our communities, whether we're leading at home, whether we're leading in our vocation, in our careers, whether we're leading at church, um, leadership literally touches every area of our life. And so I think that if we really think about it, from the day that we came into the world, we have experienced leadership. Our parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, friends, teachers, coaches, mentors, pastors, we've experienced leadership. And that leadership has really helped to now shapen the type of leader that we are today. But I've come to realize over time that there are many different leadership styles. So in this video, I want to talk about 4 leadership styles that I think that all of us can identify with, because I know there are things that we have probably experienced, and they are probably things that we're using every day, but we really have not gained the language to express that's what we're doing. So in just a second, we're going to come back after the intro and talk about 4 everyday leadership styles. Let's go. All right, here we go. So I want to frame this up by using Exodus chapter 18, verse 21. So this is an account or a conversation or excerpt of a conversation between Moses and his father-in-law, Jethro. Now, Moses was the leader of the nation of Israel, and as their leader, Moses had a variety of responsibilities, right? And the nation had grown over time. Since the time that they had come out of Egypt up until this point, the nation undoubtedly had grown, okay? So his leadership style would have had to adjust to account for now this growth. As parents, our kids grow. We don't necessarily lead them the way that we did as an infant and did try to lead them the same way as a teenager. It's probably not going to really go well, right? And so Moses finds himself at this crossroads. And Jethro comes to him and says, listen, now I'm paraphrasing. He says, listen, the way that you're doing and going about doing what you're doing, you're going to wear yourself out and you're going to wear the people out. You're going to have to adjust your approach. In other words, you're going to have to adjust your style. And this is what he says in the text. He says, moreover, look for able men from all of the people who fear God, who are trustworthy, who hate a bribe, and place such men over people as chiefs, or in one translation, as leaders of thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. So in other words, what he was saying is take this huge responsibility that you have and begin to break it down and assign people to be able to handle some of the things that you are now having to do. We're going to come back to that in just a second. So let's use parents again as leaders. If you have children, then your kids, and especially if they're old enough to do chores, then you have a list, right? You have certain things that they're responsible for. So overall, you're responsible for the house, but you've delegated certain things to them to take ownership and responsibility of, right? Your older children may do things that involve using chemicals because they're old enough to handle it. You wouldn't take your 4-year-old and have them having to clean the kitchen and they have to use Clorox or whatever, because that could be dangerous, right? Could put them in jeopardy. And so when we look at this template, or we look at this thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens, and how the structure that Jethro was proposing and how Moses could now break these responsibilities down, each one of these leaders of thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens potentially would have had to use a different approach, just based on the scope and the scale of people that they were dealing with, of challenges that they might face. What the leader of the thousands and the leader of the tens from one day to the next might not look the same. So they would have had to adapt their leadership style. I know oftentimes we look at leadership as a one-size-fits-all concept, but it is really not. And one of the best illustrations and models of that is a model called situational leadership. And what situational leadership says is that from one moment to the next, from one event to the next, from one person to the next, we as leaders should be able to adapt our leadership style and make sure that we're using an approach that best fits the situation, that best fits the person, so that we can maximize the results that we get, right? And so I want to share 4 situational leadership styles that I'm almost sure that all of us use every day and or experience on a daily basis. And then I'm going to give you some homework at the end and have you do a little self-assessment and analysis. All right, y'all ready? Here we go. So the first situational leadership style I want to talk about really quickly is called directing. So directing is this. It is the leader makes the call with consideration. So the leader makes the call, they make the decisions. They point out this is what needs to be done. This is who's going to do it. This is when it needs to be done by. But they do it with the consideration of the people that are going to have to go forward and execute. We don't want to go in just blindly giving out tasks, because you may put someone in a position where they are not fully equipped and able, because notice that scripture says find people that are able, right? So we have to make sure that the people that we're assigning certain tasks, that they're able. But directing, we all, especially if you are Gen X or if you are a baby boomer, you have experienced directing leadership, because in our generation, we grew up with parents and grandparents where it was straightforward. It was no nonsense. It was do this. This is when you have to do it by. And if you don't get it done, there's going to be a problem, right? And so, but what it has done, even at our age now, as we began to have our own families and our own careers, is given us an appreciation, for being able to have a system and focusing in on making sure that we get things done and not just running headlong into tasks without a plan, right? All right, that's my infomercial for directing. So directing is all about the leader making the decision. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. But I would add, we direct, and we want to direct as men and women, of the faith. We want to direct with consideration. We want to consider the outcomes. We want to consider the people. And that's really what Jethro was telling Moses. See, in this adjustment that I'm suggesting that you make, I want you to take into account what leadership looks and feels like from the seat of the people that you lead it. Oh man, that's good. We have to always look at leadership from the seat of the people that we're leading. We have to look at it from the vantage point of our kids. We have to look at it from the vantage point of our spouses, from the vantage point of those people that may report to us in a reporting structure in our careers. We have to look at it from them, because as leaders, we create an experience, and we want to make sure that people have a positive experience with us, even when we have to be more directive and prescriptive in our approach. The second approach is the leader as a coach. So directing and now coaching. And so coaching says the leader and the person that is following, so the person that is being led, have a conversation. but the person that's being led has the authority to make the call. So directing, the leader makes the call. But in coaching, there's a conversation, and then the follower makes the call based on the conversation. This conversation is crucial, so don't miss this, because sometimes, y'all, what we call coaching is really directing, because we're really just telling people what to do. But this conversation, this back and forth, is us helping the person that we're leading to get to the point where they have all the information, they have all the tools that they need to be able to make an informed decision. That's what good coaches do. It's not necessarily about giving people the answer. And so let's go back again, the parent as a coach. When we're coaching our kids through, sometimes, y'all, it's better not to give them the answer. It's better to force them into a situation where they have to critical think. The Bible says that God has placed treasure in earthen vessels. They have treasures in them. They have gifts and talents and skills and wisdom and a level of understanding even on the inside of them. And if we're always giving them the answer, then we're robbing them of the opportunity to develop that crucial skill that's going to help them much, much, much later in life. The third thing is, so we got directing, we have coaching. So the third situational leadership style is supporting. Supporting looks like this. The leader and the follower have a discussion, okay? But then the leader goes through a process of helping the follower identify ideas, explanations, and even solutions to whatever the issue is that they are working on. And then they come to a common resolution. So they together decide this is what we can agree upon to solve it. But the whole point is that the follower is driving the information. The follower, we are helping as leaders to just pull out those ideas. We're helping to pull out those treasures, to get them in that place where they now critical think. So we're taking coaching and we're adding an element to it where we now are going to partner with them in this exchange so that when they get ready and when it's time to make the decision, we can make an informed decision together. And last, but certainly not least, the one that I think is probably the most misunderstood leadership style, and it is the word delegating. Most of us, we have experienced delegating in the workplace as adults, and it is simply somebody pushing their work off on us because they either don't have the capability, the time, or they just don't want to. Right? But delegating is so much more than that. And a delegating or a delegative leadership style can absolutely be a great tool for developing. So let's rewind again. Man, how's this episode to y'all? Because we really are leaning in to the leader as a parent. So I got to give y'all one more example. So again, parents assign chores. You are delegating certain things within the household structure that your kids are going to be responsible for. But we have to delegate with context, okay? So we direct with consideration, but we delegate with context. One of the worst things that we can do as leaders is to delegate a task to someone and not give them parameters, not give them goals, not give them enough details to be able to complete and execute the task with fidelity, right? And so we want to make sure that we also, along with that we are delegating authority, because there may be situations and things that come up that are unexpected. So they need to have the authority to pivot and make decisions on the move, on the fly, to make sure that the project gets done in a timely manner. That time boundness is part of the parameters that we set. And so when you are assigning those chores to your kids, don't just say clean the kitchen, and then their idea of cleaning the kitchen is just taking all the dishes and putting them in the dishwasher. They don't wipe the counter off. They don't do anything else. They don't sweep, mop. They don't do anything. But now you got to go back and define the parameters. Y'all, we can apply that same thing in the church. We can apply that same thing in the workplace for people that we lead. And so we have to make sure that we're giving people enough information to be able to perform the task and execute what we're asking of them with fidelity and with excellence. And we do that, we delegate, but we got to delegate in a way that really truly empowers and it transfers authority for people to make good decisions. All right, y'all. That's the four leadership styles for leading every day. See y'all in the next video.